All right, the focus of this lesson is on constructing scatter plots. Let's take a look at example 1. Example 1 says, Ravi is a 16-year-old high school student who has a part-time job after school. He is looking to see if there are any trends that relate to monthly income, to monthly clothing purchases among his high school peers. He thinks that these two variables might be related and wants to investigate them using a scatter plot. Below is a list of ordered pairs, X, Y, where X represents the monthly income and Y represents the monthly clothing expense for 10 of his classmates. If you take a look at this first one, this means his classmate earns $205 in income each month and spends $36 a month on clothing. If we look at this one, we can see that this classmate earns about $355 a month and spends $82 a month on clothing. What they want us to do is to construct a scatter plot and to see if we notice any trends. Now, the first step to constructing a scatter plot is to draw our axes. We're going to start with our vertical axes. We're going to call this Y. And then we're going to do our horizontal axis. And this is our x-axis. Now, one important thing we like to do when creating scatter plots is to label our axes so we can show what they represent. So we're going to label our x-axis as the monthly income. And this way that when people view our graph, even if they don't know the original problem, they can make some assumptions about what's being said. And our vertical axis, or our y-axis, is the clothing expense. Right? So our monthly clothing expense. All right. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to label our axes. We need to scale them. Now, in theory, we could go $1, $2, $3, but the problem is, if you look here, our first data point begins at $205. So if we tried to go 1, 2, 3, 205 would be way over here. So what we want to do then is we want to create a scale that allows us to graph these nicely. Now, we could also go 0, and then go by 50s, 50, 100, 150, but then the bulk of our data would be squished together. So what we're going to do is we're only going to graph the portion of the graph that we see here from these coordinates. So we're going to actually skip some pieces. So in order to show a skip, we're going to draw a little zigzag section in our graph. And we're going to begin close to this first x value. We're going to begin at 200 because it's a nice round number. And we're going to go by tens. So what we're going to do here is go 200, 210, 220, 230, 240. And what you're going to notice here is I'm going to skip writing the number every other line. That way the numbers don't look too squished together. 250, 260, 270, 280. This line's 290. So 300, 310, 320, 330, 340, 350, 360, 370, and then 380. And I could keep going, but I'm going to stop right here because the greatest x value we see here is 380. Now I'm going to do something similar on the y-axis. On the y-axis, I see that my lowest value is 36 and the highest is $84. So similarly, I can't really go by ones, it won't fit. So I'm going to start at 30. Nice round number before my 36, and I'm going to go by fives. $35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, and 100. Okay, now the next step is really just to plot our points. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at our first coordinate. If we look right here, we see that the first coordinate is $205 on our x-axis and then $36 on our y. So we're going to go over to 200. We're going to go approximately where 205 is. So this is 210, so 205 is right here in the middle. And we're going to go up to about 36. We're going to plot that first point and just check it off here. Now we're going to continue this process. So we have 242 and 45. It's about here. 268 and 57. It's about here. 296 and 63. So 296 is about here. And 63 probably right about there. 303 and 69. Right before 70. And you'll notice that I'm not worried about it getting exactly correct, right? Because the way I've scaled this, it's not going to be perfect, but I'm trying to get a general idea of whether there is a trend, right? Or a pattern in the data. 327, 64, down here, 339 and 75, 344 and 80, 355 and 82, and then 380 and 84. So right about here. Now, when I look at this data shown on the scatter plot, I could see that the data appears to be going up, right? It's grouped nicely together, almost in this linear fashion, right? And it has this positive slope, which means as the monthly income increases, right, we see that the monthly clothing expense is also increasing. So there's definitely a positive trend or positive correlation between these two things. All right, so for example 2, we're going to look at the exact same problem, but in this case, we're going to try to create our scatter plot using technology. So we're going to create our table from our data points. So if we remember correctly, the X value is the monthly income of the student, and the Y value is their monthly clothing expense. So I'm going to take each of our coordinates and I'm going to put them into table form. So I have 205 and 36, 242 and 45, 268 and 57, 296 and 63, 303 and 69, $327 and 64, 339 and 75, 344 and 80, 355 and 82, and then last but not least, 380 and 84. Now I'm going to take these and I'm going to have Excel, after highlighting the table, so this is the data set I'm looking at, I'm going to have Excel insert right here, charts. I'm going to click on scatter and I'm going to pick the first one, which is the scatter plot. Now you'll notice here that I get the exact same graph that I saw before. I'm going to add a couple of things. So I do like my graphs to have axes, labels. So we're going to label our x-axis, the monthly income. And we're going to label our y-axis, the monthly clothing expense. And we're going to notice that we get a very similar graph as what we had when we were looking back at our sketched scatter plot, right? We're going to notice that they're quite similar in appearance. But this was much simpler to do. And we do still see this positive trend, right? So as the monthly income increases, the monthly clothing expense also increases. Now it's your turn to try something. Let's try this. Use your created scatter plot. If a student has a monthly income of about $250, how much do you predict she might spend on clothing in a month? Explain your answer. Pause the video here and give it a try.